Good afternoon. Hope you all are doing well. Certainly appreciate you coming out and the coverage that you provide for our team. Today marks day number 10 of preseason camp, if you count report date, and it will be practice number 8, which will be our first scrimmage. Certainly excited to perform in a game-like situation with no coaches on the field, referees, game clock, all those things, and give them the opportunity for the guys to really compete for the first time in that kind of situation. So we're excited there. Through 7 practices, I think we've seen steady strides in our understanding and execution of our scheme in all 3 phases, in offense, defense, and special teams. I've been very proud of our coaching staff and their ability to provide the information to our players in the position meetings in a very clear and concise manner. And certainly proud of our players for their ability to take the information and apply it on the field with consistent effort and an improved precision on a daily basis. I think we've had a great, you talk about our camp goals, I think we've had great competition, certainly competition individually to make ourselves better and to compete for a job, as a group to make the positions better, as a unit to make our side of the ball better, and ultimately and lastly as a team to make us better. There's been a great back and forth every single day through 7 practices, either by period or by day. It's been a great give and take offensively and defensively, and historically that's generally the sign of a pretty good football team in the upcoming fall. If you see one side of the ball getting after the other side on a consistent basis, it usually is not a good sign of balance. So we've really had a good spirited back and forth there. Another one of our camp goals is to work on situational football. So every single day we track the number of explosive plays offensively and explosive plays allowed defensively, and the same thing for turnover margin. So once again, it's been a good balance there of us meeting our goals. Offensively, we want to have 1 turnover less per practice, defensively 3 or more. And then from an explosive play perspective, we go by percentage of plays. We define an explosive run as a run of 12 or more and a pass of 15 or more. The defense wants to limit it to 10% or less of the total plays in practice, and the offense wants to get 16% or more. So we've done a real good job there, and certainly worked into all other situations. Got to 3rd down, got to red zone, hit a little bit of 2-minute work. We'll continue to do that and get a lot of those situations covered in our scrimmage today. Another one of our goals, which was new kind of from the spring, which we've emphasized with the team, is our ability to handle adversity and handle prosperity and to show our emotions without being emotional. And I think that's one of the great things about our team is the guys love to compete. They wear their emotions on their sleeve, but at times I believe it can be counterproductive. And there was, as it gets to that point in camp, there's a few dust-ups and a few altercations, but we always talk about our practice habits being game realities. And if you're not going to fight on the field during a game, and that's going to get you sitting down, then we're certainly not going to do it in practice. But I think we've definitely improved in our ability to do that. Certainly with our strength and conditioning program, I think the guys came into camp bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive, in great shape. And Coach, they did a great job changing guys' body composition between Coach Prohl and his staff and Kelly White, our sports nutritionist, just addressing the needs of those guys to get them at their optimum playing weight. And certainly it's not because he's a fellow Yinzer or because I hired him, but I truly believe that Anthony Prohl is the best strength and conditioning coach in the country. So we're certainly very excited to have him. All right, 21 days left to camp until our first game. We need to take advantage of every opportunity. Mentally and physically, 1 rep at a time at a championship standard. We talk to our guys on a daily basis that we can't waste a rep, a drill, a play, a period, a meeting, a practice, or a day. We need to continue to make the investment and earn the right and have our actions reflect our goals. And certainly very excited for the upcoming season. It's been a very good and productive camp so far. The kids are doing a great job. The coaching staff is aligned. Everyone's pulling the rope in the same direction, and a good reason for optimism. With that being said, I'd love to take any questions.
Please raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you, and please state your name and affiliation as well. Thank you.
Coach, you mentioned David Murray dogs by 24/7. You mentioned those percentages, 10 and 60. How do you arrive at those percentages?
Actually, we arrived at Penn State last year. There had just been a number, and it wasn't relative to the total number of plays that were run in the game. So sometimes it got skewed a little bit. And actually, Michael Hazel, who works for Penn State, did a bunch of research with Pro Football Focus and College Football Focus to come to a percentage of a number. And you know, I really like what we did there at Penn State last year and brought that along.
Brett Hudson, the Commercial Dispatch. You've got a lot of tight ends on this team.
Sure do.
Reps have to be divvied around pretty carefully. What do you and Coach Hudson look for in the guys that will separate themselves and eventually take the reps on game days?
You know, I think because the tight end position is such a pivotal cog in our offensive system that they need to block like a lineman in the run game and execute like a receiver in the pass game. And when you look at guys that we're recruiting in body types, you know, ideally you'd like a big high school X-receiver, you know, a guy that can, you know, be aligned and attached to the formation and do all the things that are necessary from that perspective, but a guy you can also split out and get matched up on a linebacker or safety. So I'd say the thing that we're looking for is production in both the run game and the pass game, and the ability to you know, create explosive plays, you know, downfield.
Coach, different offensive system this year. Where is Nick Fitzgerald and the quarterbacks as a whole kind of in relation to your expectations as far as this selection?
I think you know, like any position unit on the team through the course of camp, you know, there's up days and there's down days, but there's certainly been more ups than downs. I think we're seeing a steady progress of not just, you know, how we saw in spring ball, not just what we're doing, but why and how. And I think that's critically important at that position where, you know, the level of precision is of the utmost importance. So I think, you know, Nick's growth as a drop back passer is something we've been working to develop, but also his ability to be involved in team reps now, which he didn't have in spring ball. You know the run games, the RPOs, you know, changing the protections, and not just Nick, but all the other guys. I think we're seeing you know, great growth from them, and you know, Coach Briner's doing a good job coaching.
Danny Smith, Starkville Daily News.
Sure.
Two-part question, Coach. Just Aries Williams, what kind of a leader have you come to see from him? And second part, what are the running backs in your offense as far as throwing the ball? How much would you like to get them involved in the passing game?
Throwing the ball, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first part, I think he's a guy that's got a good body of work. Obviously, I believe he was close to 1,000 yards rushing last year. And Aries is a guy that he's going to lead more by example than he is vocally, and I think that's just his nature. He comes in every day, you know, kind of punches the clock, goes to work, and lets his performance speak for himself. And I think that's something, as a guy who's played a lot of football here and earned the right to be a leader, I think he's more comfortable in the lead by example phase than the vocal part of it. And that's something we talk to the team about, the guys who are captains and guys who are leaders. You know, there's not one blanket way to be a leader. You know, you got to find the things that, you know, motivate people. Some people you can, you know, correct them in a public setting and they respond to that. Some people don't. And, you know, there may be a guy you got to go over and put your arm around and talk to him, you know, privately. So, you know, I think his best way of helping us lead is through, you know, what he does, and certainly the role of running back in our offense. As a pass catcher, I think it's been pretty well documented and demonstrated last year. I think Saquon was up there, 50 catches, a bunch of yards. Chase Edmonds, who's going to make his debut for the Cardinals tonight, we had at Fordham, was a guy that was up around the 30, 40 catch range. So you talk about one of the tenets of this offense being the ability to get your speed and space, and certainly with our running back position and guys that we've had over the years in this offense. You know, it's not just about the handoffs between the tackles. It's what can we do to get them on the edge, and what can we do to get favorable matchups in the pass game.
Logan Lowry, Daily Journal. You've got essentially 4.5 offensive linemen, you know, starters returning. How do you feel about that group now that you've got them in pads for a few days, and how do you feel about the depth at that spot?
I feel very good about the depth, and you know, once again, I keep going back to the job our assistant coaches are doing, and Marcus Johnson, you know, a guy that, you know, did it at the highest level, you know, professionally and collegiately, and can fall back on those experiences as a player and a coach. But when you look from tackle to tackle, you see guys with size, with speed, with athleticism, you know, with physicality. And I think that one of the best things Coach Johnson's got him doing now is playing with the demeanor, you know, playing through the echo of the whistle. And that's kind of what's caused some of the spats between the O-line and the D-line, and when you're going against the D-line of that caliber every day. You know, it's great to watch those guys, you know, battle against each other. But then you look at the guys behind them, and I think, you know, one of the luxuries we have at that position is there's some of the twos are pressing ones for playing time. So, you know, you can't have a bad day, you can't have a bad practice, because if the guy behind you is doing well, you know, he has an opportunity to bypass you.
Kind of a follow-up on Coach Johnson. He mentioned one of the reasons he was interested in this is because he only knew the David Cutcliffe way, and he kind of wanted to expand himself as a coach. So how much of that David Cutcliffe way has been kind of utilized within this, and how has he picked up what's being done here now?
No, I think a lot of that is reflective in Coach Johnson's demeanor, and that's, you know, not just with him, but with the rest of our coaches. We want them to be teachers, we want them to be educators, and you know, doing a great job communicating with our kids, and like I said, figuring out what motivates them and the best way to get them to perform. And I think, you know, obviously Coach Cutcliffe has had a remarkable career as a head coach and a coordinator, and anytime you can fall back on that experience, you know, that benefits everybody. But Marcus is doing a fantastic job for us.
Brian Haydad, Super Talk, Mississippi. With the new redshirt rule in place, are you seeing a different level of effort from true freshmen than you have in previous camps?
They're giving effort, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's changed. I'd say they have probably a heightened awareness with the rule now that there's the opportunity for them to play in 4 contests without utilizing a year of eligibility. And I think it goes more along the lines of, you know, our plan for them moving forward. You know, whether they're going to be a definite redshirt, whether they're going to be a guy that we're going to play 4 games, you know, or a guy that we're going to utilize in a full-time capacity to use a year of eligibility. And those things probably won't be determined, you know, until we get to game 1 prep. But you know, right now, I don't think they're necessarily worried about playing time as much as they are absorbing the information and figuring out where to go on the field and what to do when they get their repetitions, but certainly like the talent in our class.
David Brandt from the AP.
It is.
You know, some of the older guys on defense have played for like 21 defensive coordinators during their career. And how do you think this group is particularly adept at, like, you know, picking up stuff really quickly because they just had to over the years? What have you thought about some of those older guys and what they've kind of adapted? I know you weren't here, but
Yeah.
kind of their progression, I guess.
That's almost borderline hyperbole. It was almost accurate. But no, I think, you know, you've got a very senior-laden, experienced group, and I believe, as you mentioned, this is their whatever number coordinator in the same amount of years. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to set the 3 technique to the tight end, you're setting a 3 technique to the tight end. There's just a bunch of different ways to call it. If you're going to play cover 2, it's cover 2. I'd say it's more the ability to adapt to the language, maybe than necessarily the scheme. Now, certainly the things Coach Shoup does will be a little bit different than Coach Grantham, where the guys, you know, looking back down the line. So I'd say it's a combination of, you know, understanding the language and the verbiage, and then, you know, certainly grasping onto the new concepts, you know, going from 3 down to 4 down, some of the different things we're doing on the back end. So certainly that flexibility and ability to adapt year after year after year is boded well for them.
Coach Steve Robertson with genespage.com. Back to the redshirt question, how do you plan to manage that 4-game availability? Is it something where you go in saying we definitely want to play young guys this game, or do you bank those for injuries and kind of based on team needs, or do you even know at this point?
We definitely have a plan, and I think the first thing that needs to be kind of addressed is we're not going to play them if they haven't earned the right to play. So you earmark a certain number of games that they're going to be activated and be on the travel roster and have a chance to go in the game. Well, we're not just going to put them in if they're not better than the 2 or the 3 at that position. So the first thing is they've got to earn the right to step on the field with their performance, because it's not just something we're going to hand them something and say, well, you're going to play in the game when you're not better, because I don't think that is something that you know, benefits team morale. You know, when you're just throwing a freshman in there when you got guys that are older that are better than them. But you know, certainly we've looked at a model of, if they have earned the right to play and we're going to get them in the game, you know, 2 of the first 4, 1 of the last 8, and then certainly down the line, hopefully there's multiple postseason games to have them, you know, have an opportunity to play in those games. That's our initial thought process, but certainly there'll be, you know, ongoing discussions as, you know, injuries occur and, you know, guys, you know, show that they deserve to be on the field.
We've got Joey Jones is your special teams coordinator now. He's obviously a lot more useful than just the special teams aspect. How do you kind of use his set of eyes within practice, and do you kind of use him as a additional evaluator when you're not in special teams periods?
Yeah, we've asked Coach Jones kind of when it's, you know, non-special teams drills to kind of walk around and make notes and observations of things that are happening in you know, the offensive and defensive phases. And I think that's also the benefit. I believe we have 4 ex-head coaches on staff. You know, Coach Bryner, Coach Shoup, Coach Jones, Coach Hudspeth, and you know, as a second-time head coach, and like anything, you don't know everything, and you know, when you can fall back on the experience of those guys, I think that benefits everybody.
Kind of along those same lines, you've got a position battle going on at punter. Just what have you seen from those guys so far in camp?
Yeah, we get through a couple days of the installation of punting, and we're seeing a good operation. The guys are getting it off in good time. I feel good about the protection. For both of them, it's just going to be a matter of consistency moving forward. They both have moments. They both have flashes. They're both striking the ball pretty well. It'll ultimately come down to consistency with those guys.
Back here, behind the big camera.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Samaria with WJTV. With you all being ranked right now going into the preseason, has that added some hype in the locker room or on the field during camp?
Hype and confidence are two things that I don't worry about with the team. We are a very confident group, and I think for good reason. We've earned the right to be confident. But in our initial team meeting, way back when, 10 days ago, we addressed it. I mean, we hit it head on. The preseason ranking and what it means, and said it before. If they're keeping score, we want to be first. But obviously, the ranking at the end of the season matters more than the ranking at the first. But the biggest thing is that we're not competing against an opponent. We're competing against a standard. So if our level of preparation, effort, and execution is changing weekly based on who we're playing, we're going to be in trouble. If we're competing against a standard in everything that we do, then I think on a weekly basis you're going to see a more consistent football team. So I'm happy that we're 18th. I wish we were first, but certainly that ranking isn't going to mean anything when we tee off on the first.
Hey Coach, Tom Neville from WCBI Sports in Columbus. A guy like Marcus Murphy, he started in the spring as a safety. I think you mentioned that he's going to be experimenting with different positions. Yeah. Has that been the same thing this fall? Has he been in multiple? I know we've seen him a couple times with the defensive guys in the fall, but have you placed him in any offensive spots or anything?
No offensive spots just as yet. Certainly Marcus's track record as a playmaker on that side of the ball is very well documented, and for good reason. Right now, him being a mid-year got him a little bit of a head start. We're working with him at the nickel position, working him a little bit of safety, and certainly he's going to be a factor in the return game as well. So as he continues to progress in his understanding and his level of execution increases in those positions, certainly down the road, him playing some offensive snaps isn't out of the realm of possibility either. We'd like to do it, but what I don't want to do is inhibit or stun his growth as a defensive player and a special teams guy when he's got too much on his plate and he's not excelling at anything. So we want to give the kid the best opportunity to be successful.